And now?
And now we are having one of our masters on the stage. So please welcome Dr. Fabio Gorni.
Thanks. Thanks to everyone. And now we can start with my little lecture, where the topics is a specific topic. I want to talk with you about mechanical pre-flaring. I use manual pre-flaring for years, many years. But the question is it possible to perform a treatment just with mechanical instruments? Are more than 10 years that in 95% of the cases I'm using just mechanical instruments. So here is an example. For example, we are seeing the phase, the steps of the treatment in upper premolar. Is a difficult case because the anatomy is not so clear. We have a calcified canals, and one of them, the palatal one, is really calcified. But I start immediately with the mechanical instruments, with the rotaries, and I perform all the treatment just with the rotaries. So yes, it's possible. Now we can discuss about the risk of this kind of technique, but probably we can use some devices that can help us to reduce the risk. So look at the post-op. So it's a difficult treatment, but it's not so difficult if you are using the right approach. So, as I told you before, I used manual pre-flaring for many years. And also sometimes I still using manual pre-flaring, but we have to do the right selection of the cases. This is really important. Of course, we know that manual pre-flaring reduce interferences, and that's why we can prevent some risk about fracture of the rotaries. I agree, but in the new NITI era, so the question in the new NITI era is absolutely necessary to use manual pre-flaring before our section with the rotaries. Maybe not, because today we can use a very different kind of instruments with different alloy and instrument with very small sizes and with high performances. So why don't use directly the rotaries inside the canals? If we are checking the literature, for example, this is a nice paper published by the Turin University by Professor Elio Berruti, that show that we can maintain easily the anatomy if we are using rotaries compared to the manual pre-flaring. So what about the risk? Of course, now I want to show you a specific case with a limited when it's not so easy to negotiate the canals with the manual file. We are talking about the MB2. In this case, using a continuous rotation, I'm shaping the MB2 easily, directly with the instruments. So don't try to do the same thing tomorrow morning, because you need some training for this, but it's possible. It's absolutely possible. And sometimes where we can get inside the canals just with the manual files, is easy to negotiate the canal with the rotaries. So that's why we have to understand exactly if it's possible or not. And okay, and when is really risky to do it. If we are using the continuous rotation, we know that we increase around the curvature the risk of fractures. But what's happened if we change our movement? Because today with different motor, we can use different kind of movement. For example, using this kind of motor by Morita, we can use an OGP motor, so optimum glide path movement. And trust me, the control that we can get with this kind of motion is completely different compared to the continuous rotation motion. And the OGP movement is very, very similar to the wash wind movement that we perform with the manual files. The control is completely different. So if you are a beginner, if you are so scared about the continuous rotation, try directly with the rotaries, with a small file inside directly into the canals with this kind of motion. Now we are showing similar cases, an MB2 negotiated with the same instrument but with a different movement. So we are seeing what's happened with the OGP. So the action is a little bit slower, but you can get more control. Absolutely. So more control means less risk. So we can do it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is what's happened every day in my office. So the question is, when is possible and when is not possible to do it? So we are talking about in how many percentage of cases we can perform this kind of approach. In my opinion, is very, very high percentage of cases because the limit is the anatomy. We know. So, but the question is, in how many cases we have to face this kind of anatomy? Maybe less than 2-3% of the cases, no more. Do you agree or not? So if we have to face this kind of treatment, no more than 2 or 3% of the cases, why we have to use manual files all the time? Why? Because the solution is the simplicity or simplexity. So we have to perform 98% of the cases in the simple way. Reduce fatigue, cost, time, and improve also the quality of our treatment. Because if you shape the canal mechanically, the final shape will be absolutely better than if you shape the canal manually. Absolutely. So we need recipes, we need predictable treatment, simple technique, efficient instrumentation, and repeatability. So we need the pop dentistry. So our claim is feasible, teachable, and predictable. So that's why still Italiano Endodontics is on the stage today. Thanks a lot for everyone.
Thank you, Fabio, for the great presentation. And you're absolutely right. Full mechanical scouting of the canal obviously makes it very feasible and repeatable. So thank you for your speech. Marco, what do you say?
Oh, well, it's always a pleasure to be able to hear a master. And masters are in our life to increase the quality of what we do and make it even more simple, possibly. We are seeing instrumentation changing. We have seen instrumentation changing. And we are seeing now the chance to reduce and sometimes to eliminate hand files. And this is going to be number one. So thank you, Fabio. thank you, Fabio, again, not only for Stile Italiano Endodontics, but for delivering simplification, delivering a simple and clear message.